Everyone, we got a really good event today. I'll keep letting everyone in, but before we before we kick any further, I just want to welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we got a really good event today. We've got Mr. Christopher Price of Sunny Queen, and Christopher's been on a big journey. But his background, he's an expert in continuous improvement, operational excellence, everything like that we're well used to. And so it's just great to have you on, Christopher, to be able to talk about the journey you're doing around project management and largely how you're going about it, which is just good because I think there's something quite unique in there for people to lean into for the future. Everyone, this is going to be a podcast again, so we will record this as a podcast and be able to use that going forward. And I'm just looking forward to the conversation. And we'll start the event off with a chat where Christopher and I will bounce some questions. As we go, think of questions that you've got, because then we'll open it up to the group and then just let everyone, go from there in the conversation. To just preempt, at the end of the event, I want to get your voice on what's important to you upcoming. I've got Peter Hines next month, which Peter's a legend in the world of lean. It's going to be great. But I've got some opportunity after that to really start to channel who we get on the community to be able to help us going forward for the year ahead. So without further ado, I will stop sharing. I'll come over to Christopher. And Christopher, thanks so much for joining us today, mate. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Yeah, thanks for having me on, actually. And first time doing this. So, excited to share what we've done at Sunny Queen over the last couple of months.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So I'll kick off because you've lent into project management on a group, but why have you focused in on project management first off at Sunny Queen to create your approach, your way to this?
I think the reason we kicked off with project management is one, I'm only fairly new. I've only been there for a year, and it was something that the leadership group had been looking for. So through various different drivers of just having a standard tool or having a common approach. And there's lots of, nuances inside why people want project management. And I think probably in conversation with yourself and thinking about where I'd come from, which was I was previously at Arnott's looking at the whole strategy deployment. I guess if the team are looking for it and there's an opportunity there to standardise a process, then I thought it was a good way to jump in. Can be pretty heavy going in high at whole strategy deployment. So looking for something that meets the needs of what the team are looking for was a good segue into standardising an approach. So project management looked like a great way to do that, and great opportunity to collaborate and build something for the network or within Sunny Queen network.
I love it how you took the voice of employee, and the voice of employee really drove that starting point, even though there's probably other starting points you could have gone at. But the big question for me with the way that you went about it is, why did you take an approach to build project management your way? It's not, you didn't come to me or anyone else and go, look, I want the off-the-shelf program. You went, right, let's collaborate and actually build your own program, your own learning that you can run going forward.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is to build something that it really, I guess it fits with the style of the business. So you can build the material to address a couple of different things. Project management, as you know, there's multiple facets and multiple ways of skinning the cat, so to speak. But I think that the voice of the customer and the work that was done up front and just listening to where the needs were meant that the material could be tailored to address that need. At the end of the day, it's a scope, it's an action plan, all of those things are built into it. But really getting into whether change management is a big issue that we're dealing with. We can always go back and refresh the material because we own it. So I think that's part of building it. You can go back and make it more of a module, more of a refresher. You can tailor it to new starters and make that part of an induction. And then hopefully ladder it up and use that for senior leadership as well, where the full day might be a little bit too much, but we can tailor it down to the key points so they then become a coach or a leader to those that are using that tool. So I think that's why project management is good, and it's project management is a bit of a broad term, but it's also just about execution. So it's a standardising a tool for execution of whether it's strategy or projects or continuous improvement.
Mm. I love it. I love it how you mentioned too, Chris, that voice of employees, they're starting there, allowed you to then really modify it. And I know you bolted it into your culture, Trice, and everything that is part of Sunny Queen. But like, what was the what was that? Where'd that thought come from with you? Because you led it to go, let's start with doing a voice of employee and an actual maturity review with them on project management, where, you know, we sat with many employees from every level of the company first, got their voice, but also did like a high-level project management and strategy maturity review using a 1 to 5 scale matrix.
Yeah, probably from some of my previous experience as well, is that is quite powerful. You know, Six Sigma talks of the same thing around that, you know, voice of the customer. I think it builds a bit of engagement about what it is that you're about to do, especially with something like this. It's not hard to train people, and then, you know, probably why we're all online today is to find out how you actually make these things stick and sustain. So I think it's really critical in building that engagement with the team at the start, and, you know, participating in just that active listening. So, you know, we picked up lots of things in that session that you might not have if you just went in cold and hard on the day. Also, it you know, probably from a maturity point of view, it provides you with a bit of a baseline as like where we're at. We can go back in a year and we can ask the same questions and get some insights into where we've moved or where we might not have, and then address those again. So I think, you know, the voice of the customer, voice of the employee leading into that training was probably a great segue into getting a little bit more insight into where people are at. And I know, you know, some of the challenges around some of the lean concepts, which flow fairly freely at times, but that wasn't a group that had, you know, been deep in lean. Some were, but many weren't, because we looked at the whole company. This wasn't training operations people. We had sales, marketing, engineering, plenty of operations people in there, because that's what I look after. But so it was a good cross section in there.
Yeah. Christopher, Kevin's just asked the question here in chat, which was it a generic? Oh, Kevin, are you right to come off mute, mate? Feel free not to if you're driving or if you're on a train or something. But okay, Kevin might be. No, he's on a train. So let me ask the question. Was it a generic assessment of maturity, or did you develop a Sunny Queen specific maturity index? What would be your view on what we did, Christopher? How much modification would you say we did?
I don't know if we did a significant amount. I think there was just a little bit more, probably some tailored questions in there, more just to drive out, I guess, drive the conversation in a way that teases out some of those issues or areas where we thought needed exploring. So I think in the number of interviews that we did, some obviously you did yourself and some I did as well, but yeah, they went all over the place. So I think having a structure really helped, but it was also some of those questions just to drive out those conversations. So I'd say it would have been tailored. I don't think it was anything that you just print off.
No, and I'll add to that too, team, that Chris Battleworth and Alex Teo, and Alex is on the line here, I think Alex is Alex Teo. They've got a very simple rubric approach where there's not, I don't know how to explain it. I could probably show it, but it doesn't take a lot to adjust and modify a maturity index. You know, sometimes where you get these maturity indexes where it's got massive detail at every stage, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. This maturity index, basically you put the ideal behaviors down the left-hand side of what you'd think you're looking for and maybe some systems. But the 1 to 5 is just a generic thing. It's like number 1 is not started. We're not doing it. And it's like 0% of the company. And then number 2 is we're starting to plan it, and it might be 20% doing it. Number 3 is we've got it in place, but we're having to lead it. It's about across 50 to 60% of the company. It's a very simple maturity index. Now, the thing I find is we get, like, would you say, Christopher, you've done both maturity indexes before? You've done the full-blown, detailed, complex one, and you've done this one. My view is I feel I get as much results out of the simple one than I do the big complex one. But what's your thoughts? You've been down the path of both.
Yeah, no, for me, it's definitely the simple one. The whole point of these is actually just to help, the rudder. And when you get that deep and involved in it, I'm really not a big fan of doing work to generate more work. And I feel that some of these deeper, they might give you a great insight, but it's something you might want to do in generational. Like they're just a lot of work. They create a lot of work. And, I think about some of these, even just the one that we did, the thing that made it simple was you end up with a bit of a yes or no, and then I'm going to focus on the top 3 things, and I'm going to make sure I tackle those. I think when you make them too big, you just lose sight of what it is you're actually trying to change or where you're trying to focus.
Yeah, it just becomes too complex. I think everyone, I can actually just share a quick screen on a similar one to it for those that want to do a screenshot of what Christopher and I are talking about. Let me just share quickly. Here we go. I'll just share that. Kevin, I can get you this later too, mate, if this type of structure, if you can't get this on the train. But you see across the top, you've basically got the 1 to 5, and then you got the level of the organization. You can go deeper. So in the Shingo model, they just have the depth, like how sticky is it? How deep is it? That's another level they add. And then you'll see here, it's just some systems and behavior questions, but you can do past, rating, current, and you're just rating off of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. And then the way that it gives you some graphs. That's all we've done. And there's many ways to do this. Like there's ones on the Leading Excellence book that Chris did. I think it's simple. I'm with you, Christopher. Like once we had that feedback of the voice of employee, how would you say you went about then basically designing and building your course and your training for Sunny Queen that you're going to have going forward?
Well, obviously we've collaborated together, so I think the way that we went forward was just starting with the base elements of project management, but then using that as an insight along with, I guess, the conversational part of that. Whilst the survey is done with the person in the room and you're filling it out, and it's very open and transparent in that respect. There's bits and pieces that you pick up through the conversation. So starting with that base material and then just having that hit list of, I think we need to focus, you talked about change management, we needed to focus a little bit more on that. So it wouldn't just be simple as, change management is difficult and, here's some tools. It might be spending a little bit more time, and we chose ADKAR as the tool to use because I think it's quite simple. And just making sure that those themes then weave through the training. We talked about standardising the templates, so just making sure they were easy to read and again, just weaving that through the process. So starting with that base, filling in some of the gaps, and then I guess a little bit of ping pong between the two of us as we looked at, well, how will people receive this content? Is it too big, too small? Have we not focusing enough on that? So I think it iterative in that respect. And I think also we had a challenge of we're a national company. We wanted to, there was a request to roll out the training to some of our sales managers who are in South Australia and WA. So developing that workbook was really critical in supporting the remote team, so they actually had something in their hand to work through. And also the templates and other material hard copied. So one of the requests in there was to bring a project into the meeting and fill it out. And then that way it generates that, kinetic learning of actually filling it out, and then you driving yourself to ask questions in the meeting. So you're not, in the training session. So you're not just sitting there as a participant. So yeah. So that was a bit of the build in there. So
I think because like it's really cool, mate. Like bringing elements in there that were really like ADCAR was powerful, bringing that in, especially team with like when you look at ADCAR, it really talks to PDCA because it's got the reinforcement bit in there of the check and act, which was amazing. But the other thing too, like you mentioned, Christopher, was basically, I guess, really us trying to simplify it, wasn't it? Like the amount we pulled back and simplified from the starting point, which is often, I know it's my biggest Achilles. I'm so passionate about this space that I often overcook things, and the beauty of that build approach was, especially led by yourself, how much you really drove to simplify and pull back and try really make the system as simple as possible.
I think, might be one of the other questions, but I think, we actually took that philosophy then into the training. So at the end of each of the sessions, taking that feedback on board. I mean, again, you're building it and delivering it in a way that says, okay, how do we adjust this? And then so we adjusted it for the second and then adjusted again for the third session. So, and, if we did a fourth one, we definitely would go into it with a different approach again. So I won't, for everyone else, it wasn't that we radically changed the content. It was more around that delivery side of it. The materials there's pretty happy with that. It's really just where do you sit and get the team to discuss, and where do you kind of move relatively quickly through. I think the challenge we had in some of those was the mix of online and offline, because you can't, you're reading the rooms quite difficult. Some of the concepts can be challenging, but then you're looking for that aha moment, which is a little bit difficult online. But it might
be a good question to hang on that one actually, Christopher, which is that the alteration journey that you took. So you led a lot of alteration from the first delivery of the event through to the third. What was that drive on alteration? Like, what did we evolve? What got changed, would you say, to really get to a result that was way better than the first session?
Yeah, I think the first one was, I think we'd set out with we're going to train people on this content, and gosh damn, they're going to learn it. And so there was a lot of, I guess, industry examples, where this has worked before, why it's worked well, and to again, I think the feedback I gave to you, like as someone from that environment, it's interesting information. Oh, it's such and such a big company, they do that. Oh, that's really cool. But for others in the room, they either don't know the company, they don't know the journey they've been on. So there's just that context gets a bit lost and the message doesn't really land. So, so that was the first session and the feedback, and it went a little bit longer because probably just the timing was out a bit. It's the first time you do it. So I think the second session we actually went, well, on top of the feedback, we're going to pull back an hour. So where can we actually take some time out? And we did that then by engaging the team more. So we had the team actually talking of their experience instead of providing some industry experience with, I don't know, projects that have gone wrong, or what was the best project you were part of. There's plenty of examples out in the textbook world of or podcasts or where you can get all that information. But actually just listening to the team, that could be small projects. It doesn't really matter. It's more that they're connecting their experience with what we're trying to teach. And it gets a bit lost on them that there's, Apple do this stuff. It's like, great, but this isn't Apple. And so I can't relate to that. So I think that human experience is what really landed with that second group. And then the third group, our challenge was the fact that we had that mix of online and offline, and how we manage that, which obviously we're using some of the breakout rooms or the virtual breakout rooms. We had the team in the room as well. It was only a small team of 5. We had about 15 or nearly 20 people online, I think. But that was just a bit of a challenge in the third group then. I think the learning from that was probably some of the extra breakouts might not have worked as well because you're kind of losing a bit of that touch point with that team. And actually, was just getting some more feedback on that yesterday from one of the guys. And so, yeah, from that, I think we would, review again and do that a little bit differently. It'd be great to be able to just travel around the country and roll it out. But on the whole, I like the way that we were able to, move quickly. And the session between, we did one on Tuesday, and I think we did one on the following Wednesday, I think. So it was pretty much just a couple of days to take the feedback in, digest it, what are we going to do differently, modify, and then go. So it was, and then the third one was obviously a week after that. So it was moving, fairly quickly to modify what had taken, probably about a month to put together. So
I think there's power in that when it is yours too. The fact we built a Sunny Queen event, it's not like it was a stock standard course that you can't modify or you're like locked into, because that's the way we run it. And that's what I found amazing with what you did, mate. Like, we're able to basically move and amp the course through the whole cycle. And I'm sure you'll keep doing it as you deliver it ongoing, which is the question I've got now is, what's your thoughts on going forward on how to really take this to a place to be reinforced and part of what we do ongoing to keep improving project management at Sunny Queen?
Yeah, well, I guess the two elements out of the training that we did was, one was we did a little bit of a short, maybe something between Kaizen and Agile, was, how do you do a short, sharp project? And then our more strategic, known and, full scope with our timeline. So we had a lot of the GMs in the course, so my peer group. So we've got people that are aware of the tool and know how to use it. The next step is really then, how do you actually push that down through the business? So looking at our overall strategy, and then how do we cascade that through the business using these tools then? So it does two things. One, it obviously drives your strategy clearly through the business from top to the bottom, but you're also just pushing it through a common tool. And obviously from a visual perspective, our A3 project plans with our plan on a page look really nice, all branded in Sunny Queen. Can then use that as like that quarterly cadence and of that strategy deployment. So for me, the short, sharp projects that work in manufacturing, I can champion those, and I've already got the team setting all of those up. That's my sphere of influence. Obviously, I need to go up a level, and the sphere of influence needs to come from the top, so each function then drives with the same rigor. So that's the reason we did the tool to start with is everyone's familiar with it and they've got a chance to use it. Obviously, there was a bit of annual cycle timing and all of that as well, because we were obviously just heading into our budget season, which we're right in the middle of now. And so we'll then move into strategy and then that deployment. So so I think that's how we'll keep it alive. The challenge is that you try to work with the many, whereas if we can go to the top, we work with the few, and then that cascades down. So
yeah, I think, and Christopher, when we first spoke, my brain's like, oh, we should start with improving. I think you and I spoke about it, like, oh, should we start with improving strategy, deployment, and execution? And I actually think we took the right path, because as we get better at deploying strategy and executing, people are already going to know how to do it. Like, they've been trained. The problem, if probably we'd gone the other way, you get better at strategy deployment and start to get people executing, but they're like, oh, how do I execute? How do I do a project? And I'm actually thinking we did choose the right path for the chicken and egg, to mind the pun.
I think the other thing for doing that is that everyone executes differently. So everyone has a different approach, which may or may not be a good thing, but I like standards. Standards allow you to be cross-functional. You've got common tools. You could have and this is challenging the norm, but a sales manager could run a project that's building a new building, because we're actually running a project. They're not the expert. They're not the SME. They're good at bringing people together and holding people accountable, and that's what we did through the training. Like that's that role. So going through the roles in those meetings as well. So I think that's what's important about having that standard as well, and having people comfortable with it and understanding it.
Yeah. I think there's a good question. Andy, you're right to come off mute, Andy, or have you got kids going crazy in the background? Andy's got a good question that relates to where we're at in the conversation, and we'll open it up to the group now too, everyone. So, Andy. Oh, I might be able to ask the question for you if you want, mate. I'd say it's not. You might have some trouble there with the tech. So Andy's question, Christopher, was when you refer to projects, did you use this for smaller initiatives, such as team ideas and smaller daily Kaizen improvements, as well as, I guess, the bigger stuff?
We did, yeah. We talked about the fact that anything that you do is a project, and we made it quite simple. So we're working on one at the moment, which is an opportunity to on-sell what we would consider a waste stream. And again, so it's a small project. You know, find out who your key contact is, clear any barriers it might be to moving that product off-site, lock in some type of contract or agreement, and then, you know, it's closed. So, yeah, sorry, that one there. So I think I was using the same one with we talked about sales guys as well. So, you know, using that, I need to expand my who I'm selling to or a region. So I just need to identify who it is I'm going to talk to, when I'm going to talk to them, and what the outcome is. So you might make it quite quick and use this planner for small projects or small activities. And then the other form was there more for your formal installing a metal detector at the moment. So that's a longer term project with a known outcome, good timeline and everything on there. So yeah, we weren't, we were, I guess, agnostic to the type of project because we had a broad cross section in the room. So wanted to make it work for everyone. So it wasn't just it's not just a CI approach.
Thanks. Can you hear me now, Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks for that, because that's one of the challenges, you know, when you are trying to get something at scale was, okay, what's a project actually mean? And you know, instead of putting everything, I like the 2-level type approach you got there. So that was, really, that's something, a question I get is, so what do you mean by a project?
Yeah.
And so thank you for that. That's great.
I think the other thing that you hit on, Christopher, and that I think we should mention is everyone knows I've got a background in Agile, but also formal project management, you know, PMBOK, Prince2. And when you look at the two, they're actually very similar. They all fight against each other and say each other's hopeless and terrible and all this sort of rubbish, but they're very much the same up until the point of execution. And the thing I think was great, which what Christopher did, was basically the training, it covers the common path that you do with any project, no matter what you do. And then when you hit execution, is it an experiment that we need to do rapid minimal viable product type experimentation with, or is it a known path that we do a Gantt chart? And that's the thing I thought I'd just enhance. It cut through, didn't it, Christopher? Like, you and I were worried that it might confuse people. I was worried about it, but it cut through, and it removes all this myth of all the rubbish that goes on between the different project management approaches.
And I think and part of, I guess, going right back to the start, was that voice of the customer. There was a couple of conversations I know we had early in the process with sales, and it was like, this is an opportunity that's probably too good to miss, in that you've got, the sales team and operations in the same room learning the same tools. There was nothing that we needed to do differently. And I had a catch up with one of the sales managers yesterday. They were just curious about it, and there was, so anyway, it's good. So I won't go into the detail of it, but that was good because it's still engaging with the process. Still, nothing happens overnight. So I'm still running just like a 1-hour session a week, which I just sit in one of the meeting rooms and just open it up to anyone that did the training to come in and talk about where they're up to, or they're confused. They went to the training, they liked it, but they haven't done anything for a month. So it's just an open forum for people to come in and share.
Yeah, you're keeping that reinforcement going, and then the next step is to improve the strategy and behavior deployment and execution system, which will then really start to keep it reinforced and the check and act going forward, won't it?
Yeah.
So it's a really neat step you're taking.
That leadership drive, yeah.
It's awesome. So, because I'll come back to Kevin, had another question. And Kevin, sorry about the time it took us to get back down to this one again, but back to the assessment. Kevin's got a question here. Was the review or the assessment that we did anonymous? And, was it face-to-face? How did we go about it?
So the assessments were, I was trying to work if they were anonymous. They were to an extent that we didn't share the names of the people post. We just shared the result. And we only shared that with the leadership team because it was, I guess it was information for them, and it was information for us. It wasn't a need to transmit that. That wasn't the expectation that was set. But they were done, I think, probably 15 to 20 minutes face to face. So I think it was about 10, 12 questions in there from memory. Some of you might get through quite quickly and then you'll just talk. Others, took the whole 15 minutes and probably another 15 after that if you get people on a run. But all face to face. So it was good in that it I guess it drives a lot more, I won't say integrity, but more just sincerity in understanding how they're scoring or why they're scoring that way. So then if it was just an online, I don't think that we would have got the value out of it if we just asked people to plug it in and mail it in.
No. And it was really amazing how the team engaged with it too. Like, there's such a great culture of respect and trust at Sunny Queen already, which just makes it such a great foundation to do this type of thing with. Whereas maybe in a company, if there wasn't such a foundation of respect and trust, it might be more difficult. I don't know, but it certainly was just easy, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it was an enjoyable process actually, because it's, you get an insight that really helps you drive your training to get the best result, which is what you want. You want people to walk out of it going, I really learned something today. It was really valuable. Then the opposite.
Yeah. Kevin's just actually reinforced what we were just chatting about then. So, the good culture at Sunny Queen really helps to do that open face-to-face conversation. But if the culture isn't as trustful and respectful, it might be, anonymous might be a good path to take, is what Kevin's mentioned too. True. So everyone, questions from the group, feel free to drop in chat or come off mute. Where, any questions around developing your own approach to really anything, because we're talking about project management, but it could be any topic, and then delivering it in a way that really makes it sustain and go forward as part of the company. What questions do you have? Because I think what Christopher's done is quite unique. I don't see it done that much at the moment. Most people just outsource learning to a third party. Or has anyone got another example you're doing yourself in this regard? Jan, did you come off mute, mate? You got a question there?
Very observant, Brett. You're very observant, aren't you?
I try to be.
Well, I've been listening. What type of results have been achieved? Like what was the net sort of? I've been listening to what you've done, and it looks all pretty good. How has it changed the performance of the company?
Nothing.
Or what indicators are there to demonstrate the benefits of it, Christopher?
Yeah, it's probably early days. We only finished the training probably about 4 weeks ago. But just actually having the opportunity in meetings, at least that I'm in, to actually just get people to pull out that template and actually go, right, today's the kickoff meeting. Let's get the scope out and start to work through it. So for me, where we're at the moment is just making sure that forms part of the kickoff meeting. So we have R&D, sales, marketing more generally kick off our projects. So obviously we're a sales business. So having see that come up is I guess a success for me at this point in time. because we're actually changing the way that we work. So for the team in the factory, just getting them to pull out probably the smaller one at this point in time and just start to populate that is just a good example of how we're changing the way that we actually kick off our projects than just start with by doing. So that's what
good point. Good point. Thanks, Jan. Andy, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Yeah, just a question, Chris. Obviously, early days, but was there any initial feedback or some thinking currently around having some of those up in I don't know whether you've got war rooms or whatever you've got there, like having some of those ones on walls or places, or you say that they pull them out, but yeah, is there any places that you have around there where some of these may be on display or followed?
Oh, the actual projects, the trackers. I think for the factory is where I've asked the team to start to get some of these up. So again, we're on a bit of a journey, like everyone is, but building some of our communication and changeover boards. So actually putting the projects that the team are working on up. It was actually one of the conversations yesterday was around connecting in with other people that are working on these so they can just have a look and see what they're doing. So that's probably the next step. I just moved everything onto SharePoint, which then will lock in all the documentation. And the ultimate aim would then be to have a repository of those. But I'm taking things in bite size, but yeah, having somewhere where people can go and look at that, best practice, I guess, of a good project template, how it was executed. So that's some work to be done.
Yeah, nice. I see Kevin's got another question here, which is a great one. So, Christopher, this is talking to interested in the power of a good project closure. So, thinking about the learning and training we did around closing out a project, and then to drive learning and improvement. Now, you already had that existing system in play that you use for this, so it might be handy to talk to that. Your Excel document, PowerPoint document you do, but how's it been managed, and was it something highlighted as good or poor in the assessment, the way that we promote and communicate on what we're working on and the closeout of a project and learn from a closeout of a project?
Yeah, there was definitely called out some opportunities there to go back and look, and it was definitely lots of different projects and more around the success or not success of a particular project. And I think through the training we just called out the importance of doing that closeout and then that review as well. So common with MPD or sales, you go back and have a look at 13 weeks after you launch. But for a lot of our other projects, we tend to just go have a snag list that goes on forever, but actually taking the time to stop and go, like, how did we actually go? And I think that was received well in the training. Execution of it will be, as we start to close out some of these projects that we're working on, will be good to test all of that. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment. We haven't really got to that point yet, but project closeout was something that came through definitely in the assessment piece as well.
Oh, cool. I've got another question that's come in here. Someone's having challenge codes coming off mute, but wondering if there is a plan to have supervisors and frontline to tackle improvements using these templates. So are we looking to have supervisors and frontline employees use the project planner type template, I'm guessing, and connecting our frontline so in a way that doesn't overwhelm them? So Christopher, how have you engaged this? Because I know that you have taken this to frontline and supervisors. How did you do it in a way that hasn't overwhelmed them?
Well, the one pager that you flicked up earlier is a way to do that, because it's actually very simple to fill out. There is no, a couple of people in the room just to step through it. It's not hard, and the action plan on there can be simple as 4 or 5 key actions. So it's not overwhelming in that respect. I think the key thing that we've probably found just using the document was the scope. In scope, out of scope, we don't have on that document. So there's an opportunity there. I've just said to the guys in one of those columns, just put a line through it, just put in scope, out of scope in there and just document it down. so that they give themselves those guidelines. I had a team member actually send me through a slide deck of a 5S wall they're working on yesterday, and it made me think about that to go back. I know they've been working on it for like a year. It was a very slow burn project, but it's actually just started to hit some goals. So I wanted to go and then investigate how they've actually turned that on from it just sitting stagnant for 9 months, and then all of a sudden now it's they've got photos up and they're moving. So
that's brilliant. That's brilliant to hear. Team, what other questions have you got about this? So you look at it, Christopher's getting this down to the front line. You're also improving it already. I love to hear. I'm loving hearing the amount of improvement that's going on because it's your system, your approach. Whereas you can imagine everyone, if it was an external parties, you can't do that, can you? You're typically given a PDF and you're locked in. What other questions do you have about creating your own approach, own system, own learning, own coaching approach, especially around project management, but it could be anything. What other questions have we got? Feel free to go to chat or come off mute.
I do have a question.
Thanks, Terry.
So, Christopher, knowing the outline of the Sunnygreen business to a degree, I'm with Ingham, so it's a much bigger scope. My question is around how you're looking at rolling that out to the lower levels within the business. So like the floor teams, do you have an approach heading towards that? Because often in manufacturing, we tend to look at the buy-in from upper and middle management, and then we look at having them work along the lines of the supervisors and the team leaders, and we often forget the floor.
Yeah. So in the training, we had the production managers and then their direct reports. So we had, I guess, call them supervisors, maybe effectively a team leader. I hadn't had a hard plan into how to roll it furthermore, just to leave it with the frontline leaders to start to use the process. So our level below that is a leading hand who's kind of an operator who might be, say, 50% engaged in task and then 50% in leading. They're doing some of that execution as well, so they'll also have KPIs. Probably a check-in I need to do is just making sure that that's actually cascading down. I wasn't going to run any specific training, although I had spoken to Brad about trying to tailor something a lot shorter that might just focus on that single pager. I'm building a bit of a lean journey at the moment with one of the other team members, and so we can incorporate this into that as well. But at the moment we're focusing on our visual boards and communication and data, getting that up and running. But the intent will be to keep moving down the business, because again that's a great opportunity for us to again have one tool that just runs across the company.
Thank you.
Cheers, Terry. Cameron's got a question here, Christopher, which is scope creep and requirements change. It's a problem usually is senior management causing it. It often can be caused by leadership. Is there any insights that you've got on that? And what have you been causing so far, mate?
Yeah.
This kind of thing.
What have I been creeping so far? Look, outside of doing the training, and I guess one of the things that we really focused on was the roles. And this needs constant, this is not like you teach and it's done, it's constant reinforcement. So we'll, like everything, it'll be an experience, but the role of the project manager and the role of the project sponsor, I think, is where we kind of landed with that. Scope will change, but being clear on what's in scope and out of scope means that you don't get distracted by the things that you've already agreed that you're not going to focus on. And that relationship between the project manager and the sponsor is where that check-in can occur. So it might be people outside of the project are trying to influence the scope, or it expands. We're looking at doing one thing and now we're doing two things and the team's not big enough. So that project manager and sponsor relationship is the thing that we're trying to foster there, which again comes back to actually filling the template out in the kickoff meeting, identifying who's actually supporting this project, who is the person I go to when the wheels start to fall off and it's just not going in the direction I want it to go in. So that's, I guess, from a scope creep, that's the only real way to guard on that, and I guess be eyes open as a project manager that this is actually not what we formed this group for. So that document is kind of your coda. Like that's what we've said we're doing, and now we're not doing that. So we need to go back and reframe, and maybe we need a different group to solve that problem if that's what the company wants to do.
I think it was, Christopher, the great thing I found in the event was that the way that you rolled it out and we rolled it out, we decided not to use like Lego and different practicals like that. We actually had the team with their own project, and they were actually learning by doing, like rapid learning loop, but the end result was they were applying it. How did the team find that? Did you feel that they're actually in the workshop, they were actually doing the whole thing as they went through?
Yeah, I think a bit of mixed success there, because I guess some people are coming in a bit cold, some people are coming in really clear on the project that they were bringing in, and it depended on their experience level as well. So I think it was really good to have that challenge to people, so you're not kind of turning up there just going, okay, it's 8 hours of training, there'll be cake and biscuits and that'll be really nice. Actually, there's a little bit of homework to do before you come in, having a think about what it is that you're going to do, and the opportunity of having yourself facilitating and me being able to walk around is you can do that check-in with people. So I think that was good, and I think for future ones, I'd probably put a little bit more emphasis on that, bringing that in. Hopefully, they'll be bringing in a template or bringing in some form that we've already provided, and it's a refresher course that we're running.
Yeah, and I think one thing I'd note, everyone too, like Christopher sat in. Christopher and I worked together on these, and so really now Brad's gone from the process. Brad's not needed anymore. And that's the gig, like I feel like any time that you can do something that either the consultant's gone very fast because it's becoming their thing, or even as a CI manager, I think the risk is as a CI manager, we end up owning it for too long too. And I guess, Christopher, you might have a comment from that because you've led CI throughout your career too. But I know myself, back when I was a CI manager in companies, I owned it for too long. I didn't hand over, I didn't empower, I didn't actually make it part of the leadership shadow. With some things, I was the point person, and I think the key for it to be sustainable is that it becomes part of the leadership shadow as fast as possible rather than some external party. That's my view. But Christopher, your thoughts?
Oh, no, I think that's actually the role of CI, full stop. Like it's where that you bring in, and now we had this discussion as well, you bring in an SME that's going to change the way that you work. But they might not be able to. They might not have that charm or charisma to move it in that direction. They might have all the technical skill, or they might have all the charm and charisma, but not quite all the technical skill. So you're kind of getting that mix of both. For me, I guess what I'm doing at the moment, looking at that experience, is building the training material with the team for the our visual controls, our leader standard work. So they own it. They've actually had input into it. We're building the training material together. We'll take the team through it. Then they'll own that. And my involvement in that is providing the guidance for that. I'm not there. I don't want to run the training. I will teach the guys how to run the training. They get it. They're not hard concepts. You're actually asking your team to follow you, not to teach them, if you break down the word Kaizen, what it really means. Like, that's not important to them. It's like, red opportunity, green good. Like, but going back to your project management, and then even if we look at some of the other key elements of it, you're actually looking for, what I'm looking for now after this experience is I'm looking for a coach to help me understand how do I convert this problem into an action, which I talked about just before. That's the support I'm looking for. The concept and the materials are all there. It's actually that using chemistry, that activation energy, that the little push that you need. If if the consultant becomes invested in the company as much as you are, then you're relying on them to actually drive it, and then I'll go off and do my day job. And I think there's a risk there that you let them drive the success, and when they leave, so does all the energy. It creates a bit of a vacuum. So I think that's what we've got. The benefit here is that no one's going, I thought I'd sit there and everyone would ask me such curly questions. I'd be on the phone to you going, I can't answer this question. But it's not, like the concept, there's material there, it's actually doing, and we own the doing. So.
Yeah, too true. I think a good point. Kevin Bennett just raised excellent point on that you and I spoke about. But I need to send a shout out to him too. During the week, I was down in Melbourne, and I was with a company, Andy Heckey's company, and everyone's talking about how good Buller is running on their excellence journey and how much Buller are owning it. Now, the first time that I met Kevin Bennett, he was in their consulting, helping them kick off their operational excellence journey. So, Kevin, you did well, mate. You really helped embed excellence in there, and it's gone forward, and they own it and they lead it. So, yeah, full credit to you, Kevin. It's just funny that he's raised that point right at this time on this week when I just heard how well Buller's going on their excellence journey. Terry, you mentioned too, and it's a great point. Like I did, I found it tough. It's like, and there's this inertia that it all becomes about the CI manager, or it all becomes about the quality manager, or it all becomes about the safety manager. Like, you're fighting against this inertia where, partly myself, I wanted to own it because I was like, you love it. I love this stuff. But then also, I think sometimes you can get that leadership, they want to offload it, get something off their plate. And there's a fighting force against it to keep it owned through the leadership shadow, isn't there? And I think, Christopher, you'd reflect on it from your career in CI, probably many of us reflecting on it, that to make it stick, it has to be through the leadership shadow, and everyone's a leader in the company, right down to the front line. But there's a lot of forces playing against that. Yeah.
Yep.
Jan's got a question here. How does Sunny Queen learn from the mistakes? So is it, how are we thinking of we're going to learn from the challenges and the mistakes that happen, or the things that don't go right through this CI project management approach?
I haven't really probably put a lot of thought into that, apart from the fact that we do have plenty of opportunities to connect with the broader team, and probably a little bit that still sits on me just to keep driving and probing. I mean, we trained, I can't remember, 35, 40 people from around the country, so that connecting in piece will be a little challenging, but I think it's just continuing to highlight and bring it to the forefront. So to Jan's question, I think it'll be by asking the question how we're going and then getting that feedback. And then I guess taking that assessment, if I'm not getting a lot of feedback, then maybe there's opportunity there to redress or recommunicate, and continue to highlight the importance of doing it. So
I think too, Chris, as we improve that strategy deployment and execution cadence, I think that will create a really good learning loop too. I think that's going to be a nice step forward that you mentioned as part of where you're going next. It's really looking good.
I've got a nice vision for it, but I again, it's just the energy to move on that. With everything that's going on. So, but it's all good. It feels good that there's a pathway to that future through this process.
Well, everything I see out there, and please, all of you are CI experts and involved in operational excellence, but I see the two key levers is leadership behavior is such a key lever to achieving excellence. But the other thing is critical processes and systems. And from this conversation and what you're doing, Christopher, and I know Julie and all the other leaders at Sunny Queen, it's a credit to you guys because the leadership team's owning it, and there are ideal leadership behaviors coming through of really owning and supporting this journey to improve. And then also, you've done a great job in actually creating your own system, your own process that is really neat. It's actually never been done. No one has ever created that blend from traditional project management to agile too, where people can sort of learn which path I should take, when I should use it. So just a shout out. I think you're really creating a good path forward, and it's a brilliant journey.
Yeah, it's been good so far.
Yeah. Well, Christopher, thanks, mate. Thanks for your time and knowledge and everything you've shared to help us create a better future. I know you're doing this on a day off for us, so we really appreciate it. Makes it even more special. So thank you, sir.
No problem.
And everyone, we all know each other's contacts, so we can reach out for more learning. But Christopher, if someone does want to connect, how should they best connect with you to talk further?
I'm on LinkedIn, and I don't know whether my email address comes up on this as well. Anyway, so you've got my details anyway, so it's probably the easiest way.
I was going to say, I was going to stalk you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's about. It's about us helping each other going forward. I think the more we can help each other. Christopher and I and Alex were chatting before the event, and we're just chatting about this flywheel that's starting to happen very much in Southeast Queensland and some down south too. But we're getting a flywheel of everyone starting to work together to help each other to get great results. And it's exciting. I just heard during the week, both sides of Parliament are looking to invest massive money in manufacturing. 15 billion is the talk, which is huge. They see manufacturing as our future. And this is exciting times. We've got this flywheel spinning on enterprise excellence. And I hope and everyone doesn't mind me calling it enterprise, because I think it takes the whole company to truly make it great. You can't exclude sales or marketing or finance and HR and achieve greatness. That's why we call it enterprise, not operational excellence. But it's really starting to move. And if we have that government money coming behind, oh, look out. Here we go. So everyone, Christopher, thank you again. Now, everyone, for us to help over the next few months, I've got Peter Hines next month, and then I have free sailing. I can choose who I get. Can you all please drop in the chat what your biggest area of learning you want is? What's that problem you're facing? What's that goal you've got in your organization? I really want to look at it and go, who should I get on? Even if you have suggestions for who to get on, I'm going to take a screenshot of it. But it's a voice of team approach here that I'm doing. Or feel free to just come off mute if you don't want to use chat and go, Brad, it's this thing. This is what we need. Who should I look to get on? What topics? What have we got, everyone? Everyone's going chat. Good. What should we get on next? What have we got, everyone? Because have a think about it, because I really want to get in the best possible topics to just help everyone going forward. I think the more we do that, the more we just keep scaling for the future. What have we got in chat? I'm just having a look. Well, feel free to come off mute, everyone. Just anything at all. Does anyone?
Can I suggest? Yeah, I was going to type it, but it's going to be too long. Probably of interest is reliability and way of maintenance. Often with big manufacturers, we tend to have reactive maintenance, and we lose sight of what it would take to put the money out there to get it to a point where maintenance is a scheduled maintenance.
Awesome, Jerry. I think we're going to get the person I'm going to get on, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to get Alex Teo on to talk on TPPM, but I'll try get Factory AI on at the same time. I don't know if Alex is still online, but Factory AI, the great thing if I get both of them is Factory AI are using AI technology to also drive it. So it'd just be a really nice element. Okay. Andy, you're thinking get someone from the government on around what's happening with the money and where they're going and stuff like that. That would be cool. Supply chain capability, Kevin. Definitely. I could get, who was on Alex? I could get Evan Powell on to basically talk on supply chain mastery. Kevin, Evan Powell originally from Signet. He's doing some great work in that space now. This is easier than I thought. Yep, Kevin reckons Evan will be good. That's great. Alex, what about you, mate? What's your burning piece? You're like, Brad, I want to learn. I want someone to talk on this topic.
It comes back to that. For me, it's all about that staff engagement, the alignment piece,
Yeah.
culture. So the tool bit's good, but that alignment and culture piece.
Yeah, that's true. I'm running a workshop this afternoon on that topic. I have a heap of people online, so I think I might see who comes out of that. We might get someone to chat on it. It's a key topic. The other one is Chris Butterworth. Like if I got Stephen Dargan or Chris Butterworth on that. HR legal complexities. Oh, great. Kevin's got someone that we should get. So Kevin's suggesting Jonathan Mamarrell. I've heard his name before. Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. Jonathan Mamarrell. HR. Okay, everyone, that is awesome. Government, I'm just making sure I haven't missed anyone. No. Everyone, thank you so much. Christopher, you're a champion again. Are you going to go for, are you running down there at Byron Bay this weekend?
No, I'm not running. It's a Bucks weekend, but I will run while I'm down there.
Yeah, beautiful country for running. Some good hills for you. Christopher can run further than I've known a lot of people to be able to run through bush tracks. So it's impressive capability. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Thanks again, Christopher. That was awesome, mate. And I'll talk to you all very soon. Catch you later, everyone.
Very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
See ya. Bye.